There was a house at the edge of Buenos Aires, sheet metal walls, dirt floors, 10 people in one room. Diego Maradona spent his childhood there, and part of him never left. Villa Fiorito. Villa Fiorito wasn't what people imagine when they hear the word slum. It wasn't lawless, abandoned, or a place without hope. It was a neighborhood where families lived with love and respect, where children played in the streets, where neighbors knew each other well, and people helped one another. But it was also a place shaped by what wasn't there. Not enough food, not enough space, not enough certainty to say tomorrow would be better than today. The houses were made from whatever could be found. Sheet metal, wooden planks, cardboard, and tarps for the interiors. They kept the rain out most of the time, but not always. The streets weren't paved, so when it rained, they turned to mud and puddles formed, and when it was dry, dust covered everything. Most homes had no running water. Electricity was scarce for months or years, and finding a proper bathroom to shower in was very difficult. People shared what they had with each other. That's how survival was possible. But sharing also meant there was never really enough. Diego opened his eyes to the world in 1960, the 5th of 8 children. His family lived in a single room, one room for 10 people, with no separate bedrooms, no privacy, not even a corner where you could be alone with your thoughts. Everyone slept in the same place, ate together, and lived in the house almost climbing on top of each other constantly. Mornings started early before the sun was fully up, when his mother Dalma was already awake, moving quietly in the dim light, preparing whatever breakfast there was that day. Sometimes bread, sometimes just mate, that bitter tea that warmed your hands in winter. The children woke slowly, one by one, rubbing sleep from their eyes, putting on the same clothes they wore the day before, waiting for their turn from the single plate being passed around. No one rushed, because there was nowhere to rush to. That kind of closeness can feel like love, and it was love, but it was also dependency. Diego understood early that he wasn't a separate individual from his family. He was part of a unit, a system, something larger than himself. His needs were secondary, his wants were secondary, and that's just how things worked. He didn't ask for too much, didn't take more than his share, and when there wasn't enough, he didn't complain. Complaining wouldn't change anything. Diego's father, who shared the same name, worked long hours in a factory. Hard work, low pay, the kind of work that wore a man down slowly. When he came home, you could tell how his day went before he even opened his mouth. Some evenings he'd walk through the door with his shoulders straight, a small envelope in his hand with money. Not much, but enough. On those nights, Diego's mother would soften, the tension in the room would dissolve, and there would be food tomorrow. Other evenings he'd come home silent and empty-handed, his face heavy with exhaustion and something harder to name. Maybe shame, or just the weight of knowing he couldn't give his family what they needed. On those nights no one asked questions, the children stayed quiet, and his mother moved carefully, as if any sound she made might shatter something fragile. Diego read those silences, felt the shift in the room when his father walked in. He knew, without being told, whether tonight would be calm or tense. His mother held everything together. She cooked, she cleaned, she stretched every peso as far as it would go, and she made sure the children were fed, even if she went without. She was the emotional center of the house, the one who soothed and comforted everyone, the one who made everything feel okay, even when it wasn't. For Diego, His mother was everything. Safety, warmth, the person who believed in him when no one else did. There would be small and ordinary moments at the end of the day, after the noise had quieted, after the younger children had fallen asleep, when she'd sit beside him and run her hand through his hair without saying anything, just sitting there, just being present. In those moments, Diego would feel something he couldn't name, a kind of peace, a sense that no matter how uncertain everything else was, her presence, her touch, her quiet belief were solid. That bond shaped him. He sought that security everywhere, needed approval, needed validation, needed someone to tell him that he mattered. And he feared losing it. Food was never guaranteed. Some days there was enough, some days there wasn't. Diego remembered going to bed hungry, the kind of hunger that sits in your stomach and quietly reminds you that you don't have control over your own life. His mother would make a pot of stew and divide it among the children in small portions, just enough. Diego ate slowly, made it last, stopped asking for more. Wanting more didn't mean you would get more, and the people who decided who ate and who didn't, those were the people you stayed close to. Evenings in Villa Fiorito felt long. When the sun went down, darkness fell quickly. There were no street lights. Most homes had no electric lamps. Sometimes there were candles or the faint glow of a neighbor's fire outside. The children would gather in the single room, sitting close together on the floor, on old mattresses, wherever there was space. From outside you could hear voices, neighbors talking, dogs barking, the distant sound of a truck passing on the main road. Diego would lie there, squeezed between his brothers, staring up at the ceiling he couldn't see, listening, thinking, and feeling the weight of other bodies pressing against him. There was comfort in that closeness, but there was no escape from it. You couldn't be alone. You couldn't have a private thought. You couldn't have a private fear. Everything was shared, even sleep. Nothing in Villa Fiorito was certain. You didn't know if your house would still be standing after a storm, if your father would come home with money or empty-handed. You couldn't even think about whether tomorrow would bring food or hunger. Everything was unstable. For Diego, the solid thing was football. He didn't choose football thinking he'd be famous, didn't have grand ambitions as a child. He played it for one reason. It was the only thing that made sense, the only thing that felt good, the only thing he could control. On the dirt fields of Villa Fiorito, with an old ball and no shoes, Diego felt free. The ball was light under his feet, predictable, responsive. When he touched it, it went exactly where he wanted. It had a rhythm, a flow, a conversation that needed no words. When he played, his body stopped feeling small. Hunger lost its importance. The cramped house and the uncertainty all disappeared. For those hours there was only the field, the ball, the movement, and when the game ended, when he walked home through the dusty streets, the weight came back, but it felt lighter, more bearable. For a while he had been somewhere else. He was free from the weight of everything else, even if poverty and hunger remained. But there were days when football wasn't possible, days when rain fell so hard the fields turned to thick mud, days when the ball was lost, torn, or taken by someone else, days when Diego was sick, injured, or just too tired. On those days, everything felt heavier. He would sit inside the cramped house, watching the rain pound against the metal roof, feeling the hours stretch endlessly. Without football, there was nothing to look forward to, no escape, no relief. Just the same four walls, the same faces, the quiet anxiety that this was all there was. On those days, he waited for the rain to stop, for someone to find a ball, for his body to feel strong again, waited for the moment when he could step back onto the field and feel once more like he was something more than just another hungry kid with nowhere to go. People noticed, other children, neighbors, and most importantly, his family. They started looking at him differently, not as just another child living in a cramped house, but as someone special, someone who could do something the others couldn't. And for the first time, Diego felt seen. That feeling, the feeling of being valued for what you could do, became addictive. It wasn't just about football, it was about mattering. When he played well, people cheered and smiled. They told him he was amazing, and when they did that, even hunger didn't feel so heavy. Instability didn't feel so overwhelming. For a few hours, he wasn't just a poor kid from Villa Fiorito. He was Diego, and Diego was someone people wanted to watch. But that validation came with a cost. Once your worth is tied to performance, you believe you're only valuable when you're winning. Love becomes something you earn, not something given directly. Diego's family loved him. There was no doubt about that. But in a house where survival was a daily struggle, love was complicated. It was warm, but it was also conditional. It depended on contribution, on not being a burden, on making life a little easier, not harder. Diego, without realizing it, internalized that. Being good at football made his family proud, made them happy, made their struggles feel like they had meaning, and so he kept playing, not just for himself, but for them too. Their pride felt like love, and their love felt like safety, and safety was the thing he wanted most. In Villa Fiorito, football wasn't just a game, it was a way out. Everyone knew it, the kids, the parents, the coaches looking for talent. If you were good enough, you could leave, you could escape, you could make money, you could lift your family out of poverty. And Diego was good enough. By the time he was 10, scouts were watching him. By the time he was 12, he was playing for a youth team. And by 15, he was being talked about as Argentina's best young player. But success didn't erase the fear, didn't erase the memories of hunger, didn't erase the instability, didn't erase the feeling that everything could disappear at any moment. In fact, success made the fear worse. Now there was something to lose. Diego left Villa Fiorito, but Villa Fiorito never left him. When he had money, when he was famous, even when he lived in mansions and flew on private planes. Hunger was still there, not for food, but for approval, for validation, for love. Fear was still there, that everything could be taken away, that he could lose it all, that he could end up back where he started. The need to be needed, to belong, to matter to someone, that was still there too. And the instinct to cling to anyone who made him feel safe, even if that safety came with conditions, even if it came with control. Years later, in Naples, surrounded by people who said they loved him, Diego didn't question it. Love to him had always come with strings attached. It meant dependency, it meant obligation, it meant you had to perform, deliver, prove you were worthy of it. He had learned that in Villa Fiorito, and it followed him everywhere. Childhood doesn't end just when you grow up. It lives in the way you see the world, in how you respond to love, in how you cling to people who make you feel safe. Diego Maradona became the greatest footballer in the world, but that boy from Villa Fiorito, the boy who went to bed hungry, who slept in a crowded room, who understood that love was earned through performance, he never left. He was there in every contract Diego signed, in every relationship Diego formed, in every moment Diego felt the weight of expectation. Villa Fiorito shaped Diego in ways that no amount of fame or success could undo. It taught him resilience, taught him hunger, taught him how to fight, but it also taught him fear, taught him dependency, taught him that love was fragile, conditional, and something you had to work for every single day. In Barcelona, when the pressure became unbearable, in Naples, when protection turned into expectation, in every city, every relationship, every decision, that boy from Villa Fiorito was always there, hungry, afraid, searching for someone to tell him he was enough. There are places we leave behind, and then there are places that stay with us no matter where we go. Villa Fiorito was both. Diego left, but he carried it with him, in his heart, in his fears, in the way he loved and wanted to be loved. And maybe that's why, years later, even when he had everything, it still felt like he had nothing. The hunger never goes away. It just changes shape. If this story left an impression on you, liking the video is enough. For future episodes, you can subscribe.